Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Friday to you all. Welcome to this week's Women in Recruitment webinar, where we're joined by Dion Johnson, founder of Womenologist. Dion's going to talk to us today about authentic strategies for greater influence, leadership, presence, impact and growth. And her reference will be very much towards leading as an authentic leader. And authenticity is hard for us at the best of times, male or female. But it's certainly easier for us within the workplace to achieve and sustain our achievements if we act authentically and can be ourselves. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing what Dion has to share with us today. And we'll be taking questions during the presentation, but not actually putting them to Dion until the end. So as we go through, any questions that spring to mind, please do send them through on the chat box. And then when Dion's finished talking to us, we'll field those questions to her and hopefully she can answer the ones that haven't come up through her presentation. So welcome, Dion, and over to you.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm delighted to be here with you guys. You know, I've heard that over 60 of you have registered to be part of this conversation. And that's amazing right now because strange times, the sun's shining, people are furloughed, working from home, and, you know, and online, I don't know about you, but I'm inundated. All of my profiles are just inundated with this meeting and that training and this masterclass. There's so much that we can attend online right now that we can spread ourselves real thin. So I'm really glad that you've chosen to be here with us. And what I know about this season of so much information is that there can be a real sense of information overload, can't there? There can be such a sense of there's so much coming at you. And what I know about that is that when there is a lot of information, then we can kind of switch off. We can kind of go into this kind of trance-like state and just have all this information coming at us. But I'm encouraging you today through this presentation to really sit up and just gather yourself and just switch off all the distractions, you know, really get present, really stay here, because I'm intending that you're going to hear something today, something maybe that I say, or something that comes up in the questions, or something comes up in the answering of the questions, that's really going to make a difference to your life, your leadership, your sense of influence, you know, the sense of your capacity to show up as an influential change maker in your organization, your industry, and in the field of recruitment. So I'm really welcoming you here and asking that you just switch everything off and pay attention. And one of the first things that I want to draw your attention to on this slide in front of you is that it says that you, a catalyst for change in recruitment. And as I typed that, I typed an exclamation mark, but actually I should have typed a question mark because it's a question. It's a question that I'm posing to you right at the top, right off the bat, whether or not it is you that is a catalyst for change in recruitment. Are you the catalyst? And what does that mean? You know, try not to just let those words sit on the top. Try and think about what do those words mean and why does it need to be true? Why does recruitment need change? Why does it need you to be a catalyst for change? So I really want you to be thinking about that right now. And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the fact that the recruitment industry actually is a really powerful facet of the marketplace, because you know better than I do that you are the gateway. You're the gateway for who's positioned in what role, where people are positioned, how people are positioned. And right now, somebody once said to me that the biggest room in the planet is the room for improvement. And there is no doubt, is there, that there's a massive room for improvement with equality in the marketplace, with certain facets and people groups being given access and gateways into leadership and senior leadership. There's real skews in the way that the wealth of the marketplace is distributed. I think you'll agree with me. And so that's a really big area for improvement. So yes, we need catalysts who are going to be prepared to change things in recruitment. But there's another big issue that I've been learning about in the whole recruitment space, and that is retention. retention of particularly women. So a lot of the people that I've been speaking to in the recruitment space have been sharing with me that there's a huge issue around recruiting and getting enough women to addressing the gender balance in the recruitment space. That HR might have, you know, they're winning there, but recruitment across the board really struggles to hold on to women. That women are perhaps coming in at a slower rate, but when they come in, they're not staying. And that really caught my attention. Like, what is it with retaining women in recruitment? Because here's what I know. I know that whenever someone quits, when people quit, there's a story behind their quitting. There's a story behind every one of those quit stories. Every one of those quitters have a story. And in my work as a strategic ally to women in senior leadership particularly, in my work as a leadership consultant and a coach, a master coach, what happens is that those people with those stories are the ones that I get to call my clients. I get to meet people who are struggling with the question, or should I stay, should I go? Should I quit or should I stay? Should I give up or should I soldier it out? And I want to point out to you that there is more than one way to quit. There's more than one way to quit. And, you know, we all know about handing in your notice, but some people come to me when they've quit and they stayed in position, but, you know, just withdrawn themselves, stopped being engaged, stopped being invested. They're disengaged, they're withdrawn, and they've quit, even though they stayed in the position. And I think that's equally challenging in this season when recruitment really does need new change. So these stories are about power struggles. These stories are about politics. And these stories that women are telling me about, it's about the extreme pressure, the unrealistic expectations, the challenging, grueling work schedules, the pushbacks, the professional pain, the prejudice. And some women are talking about the fact that they don't feel like they're able to express their purpose. They're not able to express their you know, their greatness, their sense of self in that space. And so these are some of the stories around leaving. And actually, I know a lot about that because that's my story too. I started off in midwifery. I started off in healthcare. So I was a midwife for decades, you know, and if I do say so myself, I was a good midwife. I was a pioneering midwife. So I found it easy to be intuitive, develop really strong relationships with women. I was able to develop this really strong rapport, you know, like me and these women that I was working with through pregnancy and the labor. We had something going on. We were able to create really strong partnerships. I got to understand who they were, what they needed, and I developed services, you know, pioneering services, perhaps sometimes ahead of their time services, to meet the needs of my clients better. I was allowed to do that, really well supported by my team, my managers and my leaders to do that. And it was a really good time. But then I stopped feeling like, I felt like I'd come to the, you know, there was a cap on how much difference I could make as a clinical midwife. And so for a long time, I really wanted to leave there. I knew that I was called to make more difference. I knew that I was more of a difference maker than I was actually being in that role. And so after a lot of sidestepping and, you know, a lot of just sort of getting, you know, just going with the flow and trundling through and plodding along in midwifery, I took the step to go into local government. I went there because I really thought I could make a bigger difference to the people that I really cared about. And even back then, inequality and injustice was really a big thing on my heart back then, even though I didn't really know it. So I went into local government, and the long story short of it is I hated it. I really hated it. I hated the politics. I hated the pushbacks, all those things we talked about earlier on. That was my experience. And I really I felt like I was suffocating with that. I was all up in my head, all up, you know, worrying, stressed, going home stressed, you know, and the work became more about those professional battles than actually made the difference that I made the move to make in the first place. And so I quit twice, you know. I did all that withdrawing and, you know, putting my head down and carving myself a little comfort zone out in local government, you know, nodded and said all the right things and just stopped. Work stopped being about me making my difference. And it started to be much more about, you know, just getting paid. And I know some of you will be able to accept, you know, identify with that. But then I woke up one day and thought, you know, I can't stay here. And that's how I landed into CEO-dom, I call it. I set up my own consultancy and became a leadership consultant. And I've been going from strength to strength, you know, plodding along, you know, building my brand, you know, finding my niche, which is always around women in leadership. And trotting along with that for a while, and then here comes that fire in my blood again, that fire that says, Dion, you know, you should be making more difference than this, you know, there's more for you. And maybe some of you can identify with that feeling that, you know, there's more for you to be doing, more difference for you to be making, more for you to be, more for you to say. Like, it's really coming clear to you that you are being called to be a higher level catalyst for change in recruitment. So I like to say that I found myself underperforming with bells on because, you know, what was happening was I was, you know, showing up, you know, doing my thing, my own business, you know, clients coming in, trundling along, and it looks great on the outside. You know, the onlookers thought, you know, yeah, Dion, she's that impressive girl, you know, she's pressing along, doing her thing. So it looked good, but behind the scenes and on the inside of me, I just knew that I was playing small, relatively small, when I compared myself to the me that I knew I could be being. I was experiencing a pain of playing small. And then my aunt died. And it's funny, I was thinking about this and I was putting this together. I was thinking about how, you know, oftentimes when it's time for you to move on, move up and up your influence and up the difference that you're making, then something knocks you into that realization. Something dies or something happens or something occurs that really wakes you up to the timing of everything. That, you know, hey, there's more for you to be, more for you to say, more for you to create, more for you to express, more for you to experience as a woman and as a leader and as a change maker. So for me, that slap came in the form of my aunt dying. And, you know, I was saying to Natasha and Josie earlier on, we're Jamaican, so death is a big deal in our culture. And, you know, we have wakes, big wakes, people come out of the woodwork, people that you haven't seen forever, just come along and, you know, to pay their condolences. We eat, we drink, we play dominoes, we sing, we dance, we celebrate life together. And on one of those evenings when everyone was there, this young boy was getting in the way of the conversation. His mum told him off and said, "What's the matter with you, boy?" He pointed to my face and he said, "She's so ugly, Mum." Well, when he said that, he said it really loud. It felt like the whole room came to a standstill. And I felt it was like somebody punched me right here in my heart. And it really, really hurt. You see, I was born with a facial disfigurement. So my face didn't develop conventionally in my mum's womb. I had an asymmetrical face. My eye was disfigured. My mouth and my cleft, my palate didn't develop properly. So there was a big gape in my face. So right from the day dot, I was going into hospital a lot. I was having a lot of constructive surgery. And all the way through my childhood and growing up, my appearance was like just a big deal. My appearance was a big deal. And so with this boy shouting out how ugly I was, it really, really hurt. But here's the thing that I noticed on that occasion. I noticed that although his words really hurt me, and they did, they really hurt, On the outside, I noticed you couldn't tell. You couldn't see for sure that I was hurting. You couldn't see that his words had hurt me the way that they had. You couldn't see that on the inside I was in turmoil. You just couldn't see that because I was so composed. Your girl had this thing down. I had my composure. I didn't let you see what was going on the inside of me. And I really noticed that loud. And all of that week, in fact, I used to call it the week from hell, because all of that week, what happened was I kept on getting the same kind of slap. Like the next day, the very next day, I was standing in the foyer and of my church, and these kids came up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder. I'm talking the very next day, tapped me on the shoulder, and as I turned around, the fire alarm's going off. All right, ignore. So as I turned around, these kids pointed at my face and they fell about laughing, and then they ran away. And it was like that same place, they slapped it again. And every day that week, something was happening to me. Like, I want to tell you that I've learned that I used to call that the week from hell, and I've learned that it was actually the week from heaven. You know, when it's time for you to deal with something, when it's time for you to grow, when it's time for you to come up higher or to develop or evolve, then your old way has to be shaken somehow. And that was what was happening for me that week. Everywhere I turned, it was like somebody pointed at my face, laughed at me, made me feel away, you know, criticized something about me, like physically. And it was really hurting. And by the end of that week, I literally found myself on my knees with my hands up in the air saying, God, you know, this is really hurting. You know, something's not okay. You know, what's going on? And then I like to say I had a conversation with God, and these questions started occurring to me in my head. Like, what the heck is going on here? And these questions started to come. Dion, why are you hiding? Why don't you let people see the real you? You see, I've been wearing, part of my corrective surgery, I've been wearing an artificial eye and dark glasses. I'd been, you know, the artificial eye was this like plastic shell that would be put over my eye to painted to look like this one. So it was hiding my disfigured eye, and then the glasses would hide my face. And so I was given those when I was 4 years old, and I've been wearing them ever since. And I didn't know, I call it the beginning of my life behind the mask. I just did not know that I was hiding. I just thought, this is how I show up. And you see, here it was now in this week from hell, being challenged and being challenged and being challenged. And I have these questions occurring to me, like, why hide? Why the heck don't you let people see who you really are, Dion? Why are you hiding behind that artificial eye and those dark glasses? When are you going to let people see the real you? When are you going to let people know who you really are? See what you really look like? See what you really sound like? When are you going to start letting people see you, Dion? Well, these questions were really weird to me. I'd never, all the 40 years that I'd been wearing these artificial eye and dark glasses, I'd never ever contemplated showing up without them. I'd never ever contemplated what it would mean to have you be able to look me in the eye and see what I really look like. And this was huge. These questions were huge. And as I grappled with them, what I realized was that the answer to why I'd never thought about showing up for real was because I found myself realizing that it would be painful for you. Like, for you to see the real me wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair for me to subject myself to the real, subject you to the real me. And I just thought, gosh, like, really? Really? I'm finding it difficult to let you see the real me? And honestly, I decided right there on my knees that I was going to find a way to show up for real, that I was going to find a way to, I didn't know it was called authenticity. I didn't know it was called masking. I didn't have any of that language. But what happened was, on my knees with my hands up in the air like that, I decided that I was going to learn to show up for real. I was going to show it for real for myself. And back then I was talking about my face, letting you see my face, not wearing the artificial eye and the dark glasses. But since then, it's become about much, much more than that. It's about letting you see the real me. And I must tell you that back then I had no clue who that was, what the real me meant. I didn't know. And, you know, so I embarked on my journey, uncovered my face, started to go about this process. And it's been a fascinating journey. What I've realized is that as I started to share my story, I started to hear from women like you. I started to hear from leaders from around the world, literally. Social media started to get, you know, buzzing with people who were responding to my story, saying, hey, Dion, I get it. You know, like, I'm a woman. I don't have that same issue with my face, but I know what it means to hide. I know what it means to mask. I know what it means to play small and not show up fully and silence my voice and camouflage and cover and try to fit in and try to blend in. I know what this is like, Dion. And so I realized I'm onto something here. I realized that as I'm speaking to these women and they're speaking to me, that I'm learning some very powerful lessons through my journey and through theirs. And you know what I've learned most is that, you know, too many of us are hiding. Too many not allowing people to see who we really are as powerful influencers, as catalysts for change. Too many of us, we don't know who you are. We don't know what you think. We don't know what you see. We don't know what your ideas are and your solutions are, because when they're masked, they're hidden. And I've realized that you can be a really high flying professional with a low punch, just punching way below your weight. You can have this big title and be playing real small. You can be really impressive, you know, with your power suits and your, you know, your lofty corner office, but still not be really truly aligned with your potential to influence change. So you can be positioned to lead and to influence and to change things, but everything be staying the same on your watch. And you know, that for me is my why. I went from being masked to unmasked. I went from being masked to unapologetically and undeniably me. I had to find her. I had to decide I was going to be her, and I'll decide that I'm going to let you see her. And that's what my work is really all about. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to tell you that it's time. This is not a question that you are a catalyst for change. It's a statement. You are a catalyst for change. It's time for a pattern interrupt. It's time for you to learn how to present your influential self to the marketplace, to recruitment, where this need for the difference that you could make is so high. Coronavirus, I've got to tell you that I've realized that coronavirus is really making the way, it's setting the stage for you and the difference that you can make. Because I don't know what you're picking up in all of this, how you're making sense of this season that we find ourselves in, but two things that I can see really loud and clear right now is that we are interconnected, that people really matter, and that it's no longer okay for you to think of those people over there as separate to you. Coronavirus has taught us very clearly that we're very much connected to each other. And so what's happening to them over there is happening to us over here. What's happening to her over there is happening to him over there. We can no longer build industries that are so predominantly functioning as though people don't matter. And we've seen how inequality is playing out in our marketplace through the whole pandemic and through the whole way that it's affecting people so disproportionately in our London here and in the UK and in the world. So we've got a lot of scope for things to get better. And actually, Josie, I forgot to ask you to change the slide. Yeah, so what I really want to do is really ask you to think about how you can begin to unmask that I factor, how you can begin to take off whatever mask it is that you're wearing and show up as the difference maker in recruitment, as the catalyst for change, as the one who's going to really move things along, have things change for the better. And that's the work that I do. You know, I'm working with women right now who we go through the process of, they come to me because they're handling those power struggles and prejudices and pushbacks and all the rest of it. And we take that and translate it into the fuel that will help them to show up as the powerful influencers that they are. And it's powerful. The process is powerful. I've written a book that's coming out in October. And in the book, I'm really highlighting that there are really 3 key steps to this shifting from in pain and struggling to be in that space, to being a powerful influencer of that space. There are 3 real processes that I want to share with you today. Well, before radical authenticity, the first one is that you have to heal. Girlfriend, sister, girl, I need to tell you that we've got some stuff that we need to look at in our lives. That process of me learning to show up for real was a real inner game. So healing is critical. And then handling our hindrances, those thoughts, those habits, those mindsets that are in our soul that just really stop us from engaging with the stretching process of growing as a leader. But then the third part of this process is about developing the real habits that help us, that ignite our development as influencers and leaders. And the first one, thank you, Josie, for being ahead of me, is radical authenticity. This is a habit. Radical authenticity is a habit that's going to support your development. And when I say radical authenticity, what I really mean is, well, radical means to go back to the root, to get back to the core of who you really are and to be her. For me, authenticity is really about showing up for real, showing up as the woman, the leader, the change maker that you really are. And that was such a powerful thing for me to get to understand. Is why it's what the whole journey was about. As I learned to take off those masks and let you see the real me, I had to find the real me. You know, as women, we are so often caught up in knowing everybody else's needs, finding out who they are. We're so caring, we so want to be with them and know who they are, but it's time for you to get to know you again. And I encourage my clients to think about who we are on 3 dimensions. The you that you were before you got to this organization, before you started to experience life. So think about the you that was in the womb. Think about the you, the baby that got here. Think about who you came as, who you already were when you were born. Think about that. Because that person there, that person that you were born as, you still are her. I often get my clients to look at their baby pictures, and I remember being on labour ward once, and you know, just delivering all of these babies and noticing how each one of them had their own personality, how each one of them had their own idiosyncrasies, had their own look, their own complexion, their own mannerisms, their own way. So the question is, who were you when you came? What was in you? Because oftentimes I find that we just get so disconnected from that. It's time to reconnect with who you were when you came. And the second thing that I want you to do when you're thinking about radical authenticity is to think about who you are now. So often the people that I'm working with, the women that I'm working with are, I remember one client who said that she hadn't cut her hair. She'd been wearing the same hairstyle since she was 15 years old because she had not thought about who she was becoming, who she had grown into. She was still in her mind that same 15-year-old girl. But a lot had happened since then, you know. She'd been through a lot. She'd walked through a lot. She'd done a whole load of winning, a load of accomplishments, a load of learning, and she'd failed a lot. She'd fallen down a lot. She'd been hurt a lot. She'd gone through a lot. And that's all of us, right? You didn't just get here. Like, who you have been becoming on the journey is noteworthy. It's time to think about, what did that thing teach me? How did that thing shape me? What did that thing allow me to become? These are really powerful questions as we're thinking about radical authenticity. And then the next thing I want you to think about when you're thinking about radical authenticity and showing up more powerfully as the real you is about who you're becoming. Who you're becoming. You know, I've learned that you can see who you're becoming by looking back at who you've been being and joining the dots, thinking about, what if I keep going like this, where am I going? Who am I going to become? It's really powerful, because when you start to look at it from a retrospective place right to where you're going, and when you start to join the dots, you can make up your mind about whether you're in line with who you want to be. You can make up in your mind whether where you're headed is where you want to be going. Who you're being is who you want to be and who you want to become. It's critical for us, if we're going to show up as radically authentic women, leaders and change makers, that we start to think about, what does the journey look like ahead? So radical authenticity is a powerful habit that, if you decide to think about developing this, you can think about who you were when you got here, who you are now, who you're becoming, and let that inform how you're showing up in your leadership role, in your work life. Okay, I hope you're okay. I hope you're all still with me. The next habit I want to tell you about is reframing. Reframing. So I like to share this story about my my grand's 99 now, so she's been an old woman all of my life, and at her home she's got this beloved picture that she had up on the wall the whole time, and I didn't like the picture. In fact I disliked it intensely. But not so long ago, maybe a few years ago, I was doing some decorating in her home and I broke the picture. And so I had to go and get it reframed. I wanted to fix it, but they couldn't fix the frame, so I had to buy another frame. And when I bought the other frame and they did it and I went to pick the picture up, something really amazing happened and really struck me that actually, I like this picture. I like it now. And the only thing that had changed was the frame. And this got me thinking. When I was training in NLP, I learned this phrase, reframing, as a powerful strategy for when you're going through something, or when you're evolving or developing or growing. Then a way to look at things is through the eyes of reframing. That you can take something that you don't like, take something that's uncomfortable, take something that's even painful, and try and find other ways to look at it. Try and find a reframe. Try and see it from a different angle. And so I'm suggesting that if you want to up your game as a catalyst for change in your field, then there are some things that I'm encouraging you to think about reframing. So the first one is scary situations. In fact, I'd love you to grab a pen and just start to write these down, like scary situations, right? So I know that a lot of women that come to me, they say at the root of, even if they don't know consciously yet, at the root of some of the things that they're dealing with, it's fear. They are scared out of their wits at what they're having to deal with in their day-to-day life. So scary situations is something that I really want you to think about reframing. And then the second thing is hindrances. Those things that are holding you back, pushing you back, holding you down. Perhaps you are experiencing some hindrances right now. I want you to think about what those are and how you can begin to reframe them. So there's scary situations and hindrances. The next thing that you need to think about reframing is irritations. So irritations are things that really irritate you. Things that, rub you up the wrong way, get on your goat, really frustrate you. Those things that irritate you, those things that really rub you up the wrong way, I want you to be thinking about how you can reframe these. And then the other thing that needs to be reframed are threats. So I know, because I've had really good conversations with some people who work in the recruitment area, and we're living in a time where threats are just a huge deal, that threats are a normal part of our life in recruitment, right? Threats, troubles, trials, tribulations, these things are a normal part of daily life in recruitment. And I'm suggesting that if we want to up our game as catalysts, then we need to start to think about how we start to reframe the scary situations. Everybody write S. The hindrances. Everybody write H. The irritations. Everybody write I. And the threats. Everybody write T. Can you see what needs to be really reframed? I'm hoping that some of you can see that SHIT is what needs to be reframed. I can't tell you the number of people who say to me, Dion, you would not believe the amount of shit that I'm having to deal with in this place. You would not believe the amount of shit that's going on in this environment, in this team, in this department, in this organization. I want to tell you what I tell my clients when they tell me this, that this, my dear, is not shit. It is manure. It's manure. Any good farmer will tell you, anybody caught up with producing fruit will tell you that a way to ensure a bumper crop is to get some really good manure. And I want you to begin to see that some of the scary situations, some of the hindrances, the irritations, and the threats that you're experiencing in recruitment right now are exactly what you need, have exactly the right nutrients that are going to help you to develop and grow and expose and unmask the catalyst that you are there to be, the influencer that you're in that organization to be. So, what needs reframing? What are the scary situations, the irritations, the hindrances, and the threats in your realm? Learn to reframe. Find a new way to look at them. Milk them for all they're worth. Use them like the kind of weights that you lift at the gym when you want to build muscle. These could be like that. They're the kind of weights that you lift when you want to build influence muscles, when you want to unmask your I factor, your influence factor. So that's reframing. How are we doing for time, Natasha?
Yep.
Can we go through one more?
Sorry. Yes, sorry. I just had to. Of course, I think we're good to carry on, Dion. It's fascinating. I'm certainly taking a lot from it. So yeah, I'd like you to carry on, please. Thank you.
So I want to share with you just one more. Like I said to you, in the book there's 7, but I've just taken out 3. And if you want to know about the others, and ask in the Q&A. But this third one that I want to talk to you about is respect. Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to. We know what respect means, right? We talk about respect a lot, and we all want respect. But here's the thing that I'm learning. That if we are to up our game as catalysts for change and influencers, that we are going to have to give respect as well as receive it. We're going to have to give respect as well as receive it. So here's why I added this to my list of 7 habits that I think we need to focus on. It's because when I sit down with women who lead in, or women who work in industry, in their domain, I can't help but notice a distinct lack of respect. When you're scared, or when people are trying to hinder you, or when you get caught up in the politics, or when you're irritated, or when there's a threat, then our knee-jerk reaction often is to attack, to fight, or to, play one-upmanship games, or to just chuck disrespect towards people that you don't like. And we've got really good covert ways to do it, haven't we, in the marketplace? We do it professionally. We do it with our masks on. We do it with a smile on our face. But I know I'm calling it out as something that we need to handle. We need to get this respect thing down. So let me share with you a story that I was coaching one of my leaders, and she was having real problems with the people that were managing her. Her boss, she thought that he was unqualified to be her boss, that he wasn't giving her the support she needs, and his expectations were too high and unreasonable, and that he wasn't helping her. He was her adversary rather than her help. And so she had these it was bringing up really powerful responses inside of her towards this man. Their relationship was really on the edge of something, some catastrophic. It was really not good. So we were coaching around this, and for weeks. And one day she came to one of her coaching sessions. She plonked herself down in the chair, and she looked really tired. And I asked her what was going on for her. And she said that she was, she hadn't had much sleep because she's got this 15-year-old daughter at home who's going through some kind of emotional crisis, and she's premenstrual and her hormones are all over the place. And she described that this girl was just like a real nightmare to live with right now. She said that, no one's getting any sleep. This girl's disrupting everything. She's arguing with everyone. Everyone's tiptoeing around on eggshells, she said. But she said something really powerful. She said, you know what? But we know that this is the phase that she's going through. We know that she's growing and she's developing. We know that she just needs some space. So we're going to just give her a wide berth, they said, and we're just going to love her through. We're going to just tiptoe around her. We're going to give her what she needs to just get through this blip in her life. And I said to her, well, gosh, that's really funny, because I was thinking since our last session, that's probably the kind of consideration that your boss needs from you right now. Well, who told me to say that? This woman got red-faced. She was enraged. Like, how dare you? He's supposed to be this. He's supposed to have that. He's not supposed to be doing this. And he's not supposed to be that. And she really went at it to tell me about how undeserving of respect her boss was. I've had women tell me she's a cold, heartless bitch, and I don't think she's even got a pulse. Well, she has got a pulse. She's a human being. He does have a pulse. He is human, and he's worthy of respect. One of the things that I've realized is that you cannot influence, you cannot change what you're not part of. You cannot change from the outside. You have to come in. But once you're in, you have to learn how to find ways to respect people, even when you've deemed them not worthy of respect. Even when you think that they're not where you think they should be. That we have got, I know it's a huge challenge, and I know it's not easy, but we have to find ways to be able to do this. Now, I've just made up a rule that everybody is worthy of respect, regardless of what they're doing or what they've done or what they're doing, what they're gonna do. That everyone is worthy of respect. Everyone is worthy of a development opportunity to get better, to evolve. Everyone. I mean, everyone. And do I find this easy? Heck no, but I've made the decision and I have set that intention, and I'm suggesting that you do the same. And I know that there are going to be questions around this in the Q&A. I know it's challenging, but even if people aren't doing what you want them to do or being how you want them to be, that we don't know what's got them to this place. We don't know what they've got going on right now. And especially in this time of COVID, in the aftermath of COVID, I like to say that everyone is a public servant right now, because your workforce, the people that you work with, the people that lead you, have been touched irreparably and irrevocably by what's happened in the world right now in many, many different ways. So we're going to have to be cognizant of that, and we're going to have to learn how to respect people. So those are my 3 habits that I'm really encouraging you to be thinking about developing as you decide that this is not a question about whether you're a catalyst for change in recruitment, but that you are a catalyst for change in recruitment. It's a statement. It's a statement of fact. It's a statement of truth. And that means upping and unmasking your I factor, your influence factor. So radical authenticity, knowing who you are and showing up as her. Reframing, taking that shit and making it into manure, allowing it to be the very thing that helps you to grow and ascend as a woman, leader and change maker. And then respect. You can't change things from the outside. You really need your position to change things, but respect is what's going to open that door and allow you to influence and change people's minds and change people's hearts in a more powerful way. I really hope that's been useful, and I'm really open to your questions.
Dion, thank you so very much. That was really powerful, and I have to say I took a lot from that personally myself too, so thank you, and thank you for being so honest in the story that you shared with us. There are a couple of questions which we'll put to you now, and I think I'd just like to say as well how profound it is when you start to think about the real self and the real you. And somebody asked me a question the other day, which was, who are you?
Yeah.
And it made me stop and think for a moment, actually, who am I? And what am I all about? And am I a mum? Am I a working person? Am I both? And, and I do think that's actually quite a difficult question sometimes for people to answer. So I guess my first question comes from me, actually, which is, for the audience, what advice have you got about trying to explore who the real you is, to identify for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ongoing, definitely. I think it's an ongoing process. I'm still discovering things about myself. But, there are just so many tips. So the one that I've shared with you in this is just to think about yourself in those 3 dimensions. Like, who were you before you got here? Whilst you were in your mother's womb, like, I didn't develop conventionally in my mum's womb. My face didn't develop conventionally, and I'm still unconventional. I'm still unconventional. It's like so it's about looking for the clues, I come from a long line of entrepreneurial, strong leader women, and you can look back and see what what's in your lineage, what's informed how you've arrived on the planet. And then, thinking about all the things that you've learned, like really going through. One of the things that I ask my clients to do is just talk about key times in their lives when they know that life was happening, something really important was happening, because locked up in that situation are clues about who you are. It's about making a decision, to find out who you are, to get to know you. Like, we're really good at getting to know other people. Like, we spend such a lot of time, we invest a lot in trying to get to know other people. But it's about making the decision, hey, now I'm approaching my 54th birthday. So, hey, I've been walking around for 54 years. Like, who have I become in that time? Like, what is important to me? I give my clients a list of I am statements. I am. What comes after that word for you? I want. What comes after that word for you? I need. What comes after that word for you? I like. I value. I value. I want. I need. I desire. So many. If you do this exercise, if you just do that exercise, you're already ahead of the game. I ask people all the time, who are you? It's one of the first questions I ask my clients. And it's amazing how we just don't know. We've just not done that thinking. We're thinking about all kinds of other things, but we just don't know who we are.
Yeah.
And it's critical.
Thank you. That's great advice, actually. Thank you for that. Clearly, you could also have been a pop singer from how you performed just earlier. So.
Oh, yeah.
Another question, Dee. When you removed your mask, how did things change for you? What was the immediate impact that you felt when you actually were able to let that?
So it's really hard to think about immediate, because this has been it's an ongoing journey. So my learning how to show up for real is an ongoing journey, and it started with my face. So it started with physically letting people see what I look like without my artificial eye and my dark glasses. And I had, the reason that was a daunting prospect for me was because I really thought of myself, my real face, as unpalatable. I thought of it as too different and unpalatable. So when I decided that I was going to let people see the real me, I was expecting that people were going to physically respond to me. Like, I had visions of people vomiting. I had visions of people like, pointing their fingers like those kids did. I just had all of these horrible feelings. So immediately as I started to show up, I was actually delighted that people were vomiting. I was actually realizing that it's not that bad. It's not that bad showing up. I remember being on a bus one day, after with no mask, being on a bus one day, and really after a long day's work in the city, it was like traffic time after work, got on the bus to head home, and I sat down next to this woman, and I sort of looked over to her really half asleep, saying, do you know what time it is? And I saw her almost like in slow motion get her watch out and look at her watch, and then turn to look at me. And as she looked at my face, she went, "Ah!" And she started screaming, and her bag went up there, and the newspaper went over there, and her lipstick flew out over there, and it was just like, and she was shaking, and she looked at me as though I was a monster. And I remember that feeling of, oh my God, this is my worst nightmare. I knew I shouldn't let people see the real me. I knew I shouldn't, this was a bad idea. I could feel that dark cloud descending. And then I made up my mind, actually, no, I knew this was a risk. I realize it's important to show up for real. I'm not going to let that seep in. And so almost from day one, I was learning about how to not let it seep in, what you think of me, seep in and sabotage my decision to show up more fully. Yeah, and there's another story about being on the train and going onto the train without any mask. So very, very early days of learning how to show up for real, and I got on the train and I saw a woman staring at me like really, and I just knew, and I fixed myself. I had my attitude on. I was going to tell her about herself, and she kept on looking at me. And then she leaned forward and she said, "Excuse me, my love." And I said, "Yeah." Because I was ready. I thought she was going to ask me about my eye, and she said, "Where'd you get that coat?" And it taught me a lesson that actually, sometimes we make showing our true selves like this really terrible thing that is going to work out badly for us. And sometimes, let's face it, it does. But more often than not, people aren't even seeing what you thought they would see.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, isn't it? And for you, yourself, or us as individuals as well, it's so much easier to sustain being who you are when you are just who you are, isn't it? It's so much harder. And I think in a work environment as well, when you can become yourself, actually people do tend to like you more, they trust you more, they do buy into you. Of course, you've got the odd exception, as you've just shared with us. But on the whole, because we're all human, we do tend to respond well to authenticity, don't we?
What I found is that people who are not challenging the status quo, people who have found a way to toe the line, people who have found a way to, just be a bit unoffensive, not rock any boats, just find a way to kind of keep things leveling up. I think that those people find things easier on the outside. On the inside, when you know that you're supposed to be making a difference, that's when that becomes uncomfortable. When you start to rock boats, then there's definitely a risk of that woman on the bus like not liking who you are, not liking what you look like, and you've got to get good with that. A part of the work involves getting good with the fact that not everyone will like you. That for some of us, that is painful.
Yeah.
For some of us, that is a challenge. Like, you know, not everyone's going to like me. What do you mean? Like, why? Like, no, I can't take that. Even unconsciously, sometimes it's not even a conscious thing. It's like unconsciously, we just have a real aversion to people not liking us. And part of the work to showing up and being more influential and rocking boats and changing things and challenging the status quo is getting used to the fact that some people won't like you. And on the other hand, there is this other side of the story that, you know, sometimes like you're like the breath of fresh air that people have been waiting for. You know, people need your difference. They go like, oh my God, how come I couldn't see it? How come I couldn't see this problem like this? How come I didn't understand? You know, oh, thanks. You know, they'll call for you if you make yourself known.
Yeah, thank you. Dion, I think we've come probably to the end of the session today, and it's been wonderful. And I'm going to go away and look at my shit now and work out what to do with it and look at it differently. So that's my exercise for the day. But thank you once again. And if anyone wants to find Dion's book, I assume we can find information about that on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Everybody join me on LinkedIn, and then you know, we'll go from there. Like everything starts on LinkedIn. That's my social media land property.
Well, thank you. You've been wonderful, and you can sing. You're inspiring. You're a whole host of amazing things, Dion. So thank you very, very much. Next week, we've got Tara Ricks joining us, talking to anyone in a leadership position and sharing her wealth of experience with us, reference leadership and the impact of leadership. And Tara's been in the industry, I think, for about 25 years, about as long as I have been. So I'm sure she's built up a wealth of knowledge you'll be keen to hear from. So have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the bank holiday and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are we on our own, Josie? Yeah, it looks like it, I think. Let me just check. Yep.
Mute, sorry. Hang on.
That's great, good, thank you. Wow, Dion, you're amazing.
Oh,
You've been talking so well. I love the stories. I think storytelling is just such a fabulous way to get messages across. So
yeah.
Really
I really hope someone got something, and you can still be heard. Yeah.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you, Abigail.
Yeah, we've still got 6 people leaving.
Have you muted us, Josie? Or them?
They shouldn't be allowed to talk anyway. They can't talk.
No, but are we?
No, they can still hear you for the moment. Oh, yeah, they can still hear you for the moment.
It's interesting, your story about the lady and your coat, because it just reminded me, I built a house which was a very modern house in a very traditional 1930s street. And it was like Marmite. People either loved it or they hated it. And I used to get the tourists, as I'd call them, coming up to see the house, and I'd be in the garden gardening, and I'd hear people outside either completely slagging the house off or saying how amazing and wonderful it was. And one day I'd come home, and I even found people trying to get through the gate so they could come in and have a look. And I was out one day, and I was doing my bit in the drive, and these people were at the driveway almost coming in, and like you, I had on me this, right, that's it, I'm going to tell them to get stuffed and go away. I don't want to know whether they like it or not like it. And then they were so lovely to me and said what a great thing it was, we'd done something different, and how nice it was to see some modern architecture. And so like you, gosh, I'd gone into this just absolutely thinking I was going to get another berating.
Yeah, exactly. we can anticipate it, can't we? We can just anticipate. And there's a lot of that going on in the workplace. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. It's been great, and hopefully once this is all over, we'll all get the opportunity to meet up and do some.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, Dion, thank you, and I'm going to keep following you, and I'll look out for the book as well, and I'll send you the book I'm reading that you might be interested in.
Yes, I definitely would love to see that. So
details as well. All right then, Josie. Thank you.
Is Josie still with us?
No. I'll drop her an email.
I would love the recording too. So if
I'll ask her to send that to you. I think it's also going on the Women in Recruitment website, Dion, so it'll be on there as well. But I'll ask her if she can send it to you.
All right. Take good care.
Bye.
See ya.
Look after yourself. Bye bye.